Well, DreamWorks, I thought I'd never say this, but you finally have lowered yourself to the same level as current Disney. So, just recently, I went to go see the live-action remake of the classic animated 2010 DreamWorks film, How to Train Your Dragon. The original How to Train Your Dragon is honestly one of my favorite DreamWorks movies, and just one of my favorite animated movies in general. If it weren't for Prince of Egypt, I personally would consider it DreamWorks Animation's best work. It's such a heartfelt tale of a boy bonding with what he was initially taught he should fear, and learning there's a lot more to dragons than might meet the eye initially. It's pretty much the perfect blend of cute whimsy and charm colliding with the really relatable and grounded themes revolving around feeling pressure to fulfill familial goals and expectations, getting heat from those around you when you don't do that, and ultimately finding the confidence within yourself to be the one to break the cycle. So, how does this live-action remake of this beloved animated film decide to handle all that? By making Hiccup a Tom Holland shoo-in and also introducing a lot of scenes that take away from the emotional weight of the original film. Oh boy, there is a lot to say on this remake for sure. Obviously, live-action remakes of classic animated films have existed for a long time now and are primarily made by Disney. However, it looks like DreamWorks of all studios has now decided to get in on the live-action remake train for some reason. I find this really interesting since, for those who don't know, DreamWorks was actually founded to spite Disney when it was initially created. DreamWorks as a studio was actually founded by two men who disliked Disney, Jeffrey Katzenberg and David Geffen, which there could definitely be said a lot about those two particular people, but also Steven Spielberg was involved in the founding of DreamWorks as well. DreamWorks was essentially founded directly to get a leg up on Disney and also obtain major prestige in the film world by being super experimental and out of the box. And a lot of their early films are super reflective of this mindset, such as Prince of Egypt, Saving Private Ryan, yes, that is a DreamWorks film, believe it or not, Gladiator, The Road to El Dorado, and so many more. DreamWorks was literally founded as the alternative to Disney, so it is kinda wild to see them come full circle and now basically joining Disney's league. They've decided to go and do the exact same thing that Disney has been doing for the last 10 years now and make a live-action remake of a beloved animated film. But if I'm being honest, I think this was kind of inevitable anyway eventually. DreamWorks as a studio has definitely had a very rough history financially, almost going bankrupt twice. And funny enough, because of these financial issues, it actually has caused them to have to partner with Disney in the past to get some of their films distributed, such as Lincoln and also Bridge of Spies. So, as much as I hate to say it, I think this was a day that was gonna come eventually anyway. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em, I guess. Even the director of the original animated film, Dean DeBlois, stated he came onto this project to make sure it stayed true to his vision for the original animated film. And he also said it wasn't going to be a shot-for-shot remake. So, now that I've seen the film, can I say that Dean DeBlois was right about this? No, he very much was not. This literally is a shot-for-shot remake of the original animated film, doing everything beat for beat, but somehow messing it up too. Despite copying every minute detail that it could about the original animated film, this remake still somehow manages to miss so many of the things that made the original good. There's a lot of things that were changed in the transition to live action that honestly just make this a worse movie. So today, I'm gonna talk about the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake, why it's bad, and why it just misses so much of the heart and soul of the original film in order just to make a quick buck. To start, however, let's get the elephant out of the room here, since inevitably a lot of the anti-woke grifters on YouTube have actually been going after this movie, believe it or not. Wow, they really never give it a rest, do they? Specifically, they're getting mad that Nico Parker, an actress of African descent, is now playing the role of Astrid.
What's it got to do with changing the source material, though? Like, that was also a fantasy. At least stay honest to that.
I just wish they'd be honest just one time and say, look, we've got quotas that we have to meet for this sort of thing. We don't care, you don't care, but we have to do it.
Tick.
According to them, this is clearly pushing a woke agenda. I find it funny these guys will always look to complain about something like this, but yet have never complained about Wolverine, a character who is Canadian and 5'3" in the comics, and has actually been played by a man who is Australian and 6'2" for the past 20 years, huh? Funny how that works. It's also funny because Astrid initially wasn't even played by a white woman. She's actually voiced by a Latina woman. So in a lot of ways, you could actually argue that Astrid's actresses haven't been fully cast to be Nordic anyway from the very beginning. Personally, I think in a situation like this, it really just comes down to, does the actress do a good job at portraying this character? And strangely enough, I actually think Nico Parker does a really good job at playing Astrid. Honestly, she was one of the only parts of this movie that I really liked. She manages to carry Astrid's very narcissistic and often jaded personality that she has at the start of the film so well. In a lot of ways, I actually think casting her was a good choice. So really, no matter what the anti-woke grifters say, this honestly is one of the few good things about the movie. But unfortunately, that one good thing isn't enough to make this a good product overall. There are so many other things that are wrong with this remake, and strangely enough, one of them is actually Hiccup himself. To me, this Hiccup is not the Hiccup from the original film whatsoever. Here, Hiccup is played by Mason Thames, who in all honesty is a good actor, having previously starred in the psychological thriller The Black Phone. However, I honestly don't think he makes a good Hiccup at all. Hiccup in the original film is the most unappealing, weak person in the village, and that's actually the point. He so desperately wants to kill a dragon at the start of the film because he sees it as a way to feel accepted by the rest of the village, and also get a girlfriend in his words. He's also been taught in the society that he's in that killing a dragon is a real Viking thing to do. And sooner or later, if he wants to be accepted, he has to kill one. To this end, he is drawn as incredibly small and weak to show just how much of a social outcast he really is. But the thing is, Mason Thames as an actor doesn't really give off this vibe at all. His portrayal in this film is honestly a lot more brash and over the top than it really should be for a character like Hiccup. If anything, this version of Hiccup reminded me more of how Shia LaBeouf acted as Sam Witwicky in the Transformers films, which is not a compliment.
Right, packing M4s? What are you protecting? Colostomy bags, bedpans, throat lozenges?
Babe.
Where'd you get that hat from? Nursing school? So you're nurses and foot powder protectors.
Babe.
Fantastic,
Babe.
yes.
I don't know where
We are in the right place.
I'd honestly say in a lot of ways he comes off as more of a quirky jock than a real social outcast in this film. And honestly, as strange as it might sound, I honestly think this being a live action film is one of the main things that makes it so Hiccup doesn't seem like a social outcast here. In animation, you can design any character how you want, and because of that, in the original animated film, Hiccup is specifically designed to look really scrawny and weak and small. His physical character design and how he's drawn sends this message directly to the audience. It's sort of an example of show don't tell. But obviously in a live action film, this just isn't something that you can do. You have to cast a real actor to play this role. And I think the studio heads at Universal realized it would be very hard to cast someone who physically looks like Hiccup and still make the film marketable. In animation, you can take a character with Hiccup's physical attributes and still make them appealing. Ultimately, you're in full control of how that character looks and how well it can come off to the audience. It's a big reason why something like Ratatouille, despite being solely focused on rats, something that people generally hate and find gross, can still make the rats appealing. They have the freedom to shape those characters how they want and design them in a way that audiences will like and grab onto. Same thing with the lions in the original Lion King. Lions have very stoic, expressionless faces by definition. So in animation, you can shape a lion's face to be more expressive and come off more to the audience. Gee, it sure would be a dumb idea if someone took those original expressive lions and made them look like real lions, huh, wouldn't it? But in all honesty, in a different sort of way, this is kind of what happens with Hiccup too. Them casting a real teenager who obviously can't physically have Hiccup's character design, I think really makes a lot of this not resonate as well. I honestly have a hard time believing him as the most unappealing underdog weakling ever. And this really isn't helped by how the actor portrays him either, since like I said before, he comes off more like Shia LaBeouf's character in Transformers, really snarky and mouthy. Obviously, Hiccup was sarcastic in the original film as sometimes, but he wasn't like just straight up mouthy all the time. This feels like overkill. It's like the acting director told Mason to act like a combination of Sam Witwicky and Marty McFly, which really isn't Hiccup at all. This absolutely is not my Hiccup, and I think they really missed the point of his character when casting Mason, unfortunately. It really feels like they tried to play Hiccup as quote-unquote cool, which I think really defeats the point of his character. He's not supposed to be cool, he's supposed to be a weak, geeky social outcast. That's what makes the fact he's the only one that's able to see beyond the dragon's outer appearance all the more compelling. He's able to look beyond how the dragons outwardly look, unlike how all the other Vikings look at how he outwardly looks. Hiccup doesn't judge, unlike how the Vikings judge him. I think making him a cool jock type character really takes away from that. And it also kind of takes away the geeky relatability he had in the original film too. But believe it or not, the way Hiccup is portrayed is not the only detriment that this has as a live action film. Oh no. I think this film also is super lackluster when it comes to the dragon designs, which obviously is a big part of a franchise called How to Train Your Dragon. In the original film, the dragon designs are super distinct and stylized, and this kind of continues throughout the entire franchise. The fact it was an animated film let the filmmakers get really creative with these dragon designs. But here in the live action film, since the dragon designs have to be translated to look more quote-unquote realistic, honestly they look a lot more bland and more boring. When you compare the dragon designs in this version to the ones in the original film, a lot of them really stand out more in the original and just look more colorful and full of life. It's just another reason why a story like this works so much better in animation. A lot of the dragon designs in this film could honestly just easily pass as Smog or the dragon from Harry Potter 8 if anything, which is kind of ironic given the fact that How to Train Your Dragon and Harry Potter now share theme park space together in Epic Universe in Orlando. I really hope they don't start incorporating stuff in this remake down there too, cause I would really be disappointed. The dragon designs here are just super lackluster and boring to look at. I think the only dragon that looks like they actually put effort into designing him is Toothless. That is another thing I can say that's good about this film is the way they faithfully translated Toothless's design into this one. For some reason, they didn't even try with any of the other designs. They all look so ugly and boring. Even the giant final dragon that's found in the dragon's nest in the climax of the original film looks super boring and washed out here. This is literally supposed to be the most threatening thing in the film, and somehow they also make this look like a joke and so dull. I really don't know how they managed to fumble something this simple so hard. But speaking of the final dragon, that also brings up a big point of what this film is missing. A lot of scenes, including scenes that are meant to lead directly into that final battle, are actually just straight up gone in this remake. In the original, there's a scene where Hiccup and Toothless are relaxing together after flying, and a group of smaller dragons come by and try and steal Toothless's fish. As a result, Toothless ends up goading the other dragon into opening its mouth so he can shoot flames down it, which of course causes the other dragon to be stunned by Toothless, and also causes Hiccup to realize that dragons aren't fireproof on the inside. And this little bit of knowledge actually carries over to the final battle, since Hiccup uses this fact to defeat the bigger dragon. He and Toothless fly up high into the sky and have the dragon follow them, and when it's about to open its mouth to swallow them, he has Toothless quickly shoot flames into its mouth. And that's what ultimately causes this giant bigger dragon to go down. However, in the remake, they don't actually show this scene where Hiccup initially learns about this at all. But for some reason, this is still the way they defeat the bigger dragon in the live action remake. Hiccup still has Toothless shoot his flames down the dragon's mouth. Honestly, I think it's something that really takes away from this climax and makes it not really have as much of a satisfying payoff. We're not shown how Hiccup initially learns of this fact at all, that this is every dragon's weakness, and it just kinda happens here. There's no build up for it at all. They also get rid of this scene where Hiccup is sneaking Toothless into the village in order to get more materials for the harness he's built for him. And that's where Astrid almost catches him with Toothless, and this is what causes her to be even more suspicious of him. But since this scene is gone in the remake, the suspicion doesn't really build for her like it does in the original. If anything, it kind of feels like her suspicion comes more out of nowhere in this film. Despite this being a shot-for-shot remake in pretty much every other aspect, they just get rid of random scenes, which I don't really get why. And honestly, that's also something that kills the pacing for this film. This remake is 1 hour and 56 minutes long, as opposed to the original, which was 1.5 hours long. Taking into account that a lot of scenes from the original have been removed in this remake, and the fact that it is a longer film still somehow, this means a lot of scenes here have actually been way too padded out and feel like they're so drawn out and go on for so long. It's really night and day when you compare that to the original, which honestly is a perfectly paced film in my opinion. But here, so many of the scenes just drag on for way too long, and I feel like it really kills the pacing and flow of the story. They also throw in a really pointless side story about Astrid apparently wanting to get the chief's role. There's a scene where she's talking to Hiccup and saying, "Hey, you see your house? That's gonna be my house someday. I'm gonna be chief of this village." And then inevitably, since the rest of the film is just like the original, they don't really go anywhere with that. It's just kind of there and really for no reason. It's a really random one-off thing that they don't even even do anything with. It really makes me wonder why they removed the original scenes that I discussed already and then threw in random filler like this that doesn't actually add anything to the flow of the story. It's ultimately just a really poor storytelling decision, and it honestly really doesn't help that a lot of the dialogue deliveries by most of the characters feel super weak and not that compelling when compared to the original. Obviously, like I talked about before, Hiccup has a really great character design in the original film, but I also think he has a really good voice actor. Jay Baruchel, who voiced Hiccup in the original film, really managed to capture that dorky sound that Hiccup should have. And I would also say that a lot of his line deliveries really leaned into this as well. But with Mason here, that just doesn't come off nearly as well. It doesn't help that he's coming off more as a jock type character like I said before, but it really doesn't help that his voice doesn't have the same sound as the original character. But even there, a lot of his line deliveries, and not just him, most of the cast overall seems super weak and flat when compared to the original. Either that or they just feel overacted. Like, look at this scene for comparison here. This is the scene where Hiccup argues with his dad after he finds out about Toothless in both the animated original and the live action remake.
Everything in the ring. A trick? A lie?
I screwed up. I should have told you before now. You take this out on me. Be mad at me, but please, just don't hurt Toothless.
They've killed hundreds of us!
And we've killed thousands of them! If they don't bring enough food back, they'll be eaten themselves.
So everything in the ring, a trick? A lie?
I should have told you before now. Take that out on me, it's my fault. Please don't hurt Toothless.
But they've killed hundreds of us!
And we've killed thousands of them! If they don't bring enough food back, they'll be eating themselves!
Honestly, I'd say the acting in the animated original feels a lot more human to me. In the remake here, it just feels so overacted and over the top. I feel like it makes a lot of the emotions just go right out the window as a result. I think for me personally, this is by far the biggest issue I have with this remake. So many lines and deliveries just come off as either really stilted or just completely overacted. It's totally egregious when you compare this to the original. Honestly, I'd say for anyone wanting to go see this remake, which I wouldn't recommend by the way, because I don't think you should give this your money. I didn't. I went to go see Life of Chuck instead and then walked into this one because I know better than to give stuff like this my money. But if you really want to, I would say watch the animated original first, then go into this, because it is night and day. Overall, despite the fact this is DreamWorks, this really isn't any different than a Disney remake in my opinion. It seems DreamWorks themselves is finally totally selling out and choosing to do live action remakes, given the fact they've already confirmed the entire trilogy of How to Train Your Dragon is set to be remade in live action, which really sucks. DreamWorks actually has been pretty good about making original cool animated films, even though they're obviously very hit or miss oftentimes, but they can make good films in my opinion. Something like The Bad Guys from them I actually really enjoyed, and I'm excited to see the sequel this August. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was great, and so was The Wild Robot. I think in a lot of ways, they often prove themselves to still be really creative when it comes to animated projects, and Disney I can't really say the same for. So it honestly really is disheartening to me to see DreamWorks choosing to get in on the same thing that Disney has been doing for the last 10 years. I would absolutely say DreamWorks is far from creatively bankrupt when it comes to their animated projects, so this is pretty disappointing to see. Overall, I would say don't give this shoddy remake your money and go see The Bad Guys 2 this August if you really want your DreamWorks fix. That looks really fun and possibly even better than the original, which I already really like, so I'm very excited to see that and be able to review that for the channel as well when that comes out. But you know what? Even right now, you can make the choice to see a much better movie that's currently playing in theaters at the same time as How to Train Your Dragon. I'm talking about none other than the film I actually paid for instead of this movie, that being The Life of Chuck. This is a movie worth your time, not this crappy remake. So I want to try to sell you on that here so you don't go watch this bad remake instead. The Life of Chuck is actually based on a Stephen King short story of the same name. Obviously though, it's not one of his horror pieces, it's more a very existential, impactful film about fulfilling your life to the best of your ability. Because of this, when this film was initially advertised, it was actually marketed as being from the author of The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. Because, in all honesty, it's very much more that kind of story than something like Pet Sematary or It. It's a super unique film too, actually told completely in reverse. The film actually opens with the world literally ending. The internet has gone down nationwide, crops can't grow anymore, and tons of natural disasters are happening all over the world at once. It opens on perhaps the most devastating moment it possibly could. But that's exactly the point in this film, funny enough. The film slowly goes back through time and shows us the life of Chuck, as the title says. Chuck is someone who, even from a very young age, has already had a lot of terrible stuff happen to him. I won't go into too much details about that, since I think this is a film you should go see for yourself and see why it's so great. Because ultimately what this ends up being is a tale of facing your own mortality head on, which is something that very literally happens in this film, staring your own future in the eyes and saying, you know what, I'm still gonna live my life to the best of my ability. Even if my life might not take the turns I wanted to, I'm still gonna make the most of it. I'm gonna take my life to where I want and also bring life to those around me. And man, I think this is the film that people need more than ever right now. Once again, I don't want to say too much about the specific plot because there are a lot of surprises I want you to see for yourself, but please go see this in theaters. It has been such a long time since I left a movie theater with the kind of feeling that this movie gave me. This is the kind of movie that'll gently take your hand and remind you that even when life might seem like crap, you can still choose life. It is such a powerful movie, and so far, this and the Hatsune Miku movie are easily my movies of the year. I'm really looking forward to talking about this and the Miku movie in my end of year review. This is a film that really shows the magic of cinema. This is the kind of film that deserves your money, not another crappy remake. That's the note I want to leave you on. Go watch Life of Chuck. Don't watch How to Train Your Dragon. Honestly, there are already a lot of other films that have already come out in 2025 that are way more deserving of your time than this. You could go watch The Colors Within, which I already talked about here on the channel. It is an amazing film from the same director as A Silent Voice. You could go watch the Miku movie, which honestly is strangely beautiful and deep and way better than it has any right to be. You could go watch Sinners, which is a fantastic vampire thriller with a lot of really deep ethnic backgrounds in it. There are so many other movies that have come out this year even that really deserve your money over another crappy recycled remake, and I really want to encourage you to go check those out instead. But what do you think? Am I wrong? Is the How to Train Your Dragon remake actually amazing? And if you go to the theater this weekend, which movie is gonna get your money? How to Train Your Dragon or Life of Chuck? Let me know down in the comments below. Regardless though, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a like and also consider subscribing. I do a lot of videos like this, basically on film overall, so if you like this video, you'll probably like the others I have planned for the future as well. If you have a suggestion for something you think I should cover here on YouTube in the future, be sure to join my Discord. We have a suggestions and questions channel there where you can bring up a topic you think I should cover here in the future. And you can also just get to know a community of like-minded people overall. You can also check out my letterbox to see movies and shows that I've already reviewed, oftentimes movies and shows that I won't cover here on YouTube. Special thanks to my patrons DDC1996 and Trayvon Gibson for supporting me over there as well. Also thanks to you, The Guardian, David Deister, Jared the Rabbit, and Balf Games for supporting me as YouTube members. It really does help what I do here a lot, so thank you very much for choosing to support me that way. The next video I want to make is a review of Mary and Max, which I consider to be the best autism movie. I want to start a series called An Autistic's Perspective Of, where I review different movies, not even movies just about autism, but just movies overall, and talk about how I view them through an autistic lens. Let me know down below if that's a series you'd like to see here on the channel. But regardless, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video or learned something new from it. I've been Otterly Noah, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye!